The first thing the bus driver said was not hello. It was, "Owen Miller, do not sign anything tonight." Owen had one foot on the curb and one hand around the strap of his work bag when the words hit him, hard enough to make him forget the cold November rain blowing through the open bus doors. Nobody on Route 47 knew his full name. At least, nobody was supposed to. He turned slowly, expecting some mistake, some older man confusing him with another tired passenger in a navy jacket. But the driver was staring at him through the mirror with the careful, serious look of a man who had already decided this was not a misunderstanding. His name tag read Walt Jennings. Gray hair under a transit cap, thick hands resting on the wheel, a paper coffee cup in the holder beside him. Nothing about him looked dramatic. That made it worse. "Excuse me," Owen asked. The last passenger stepped down behind him and disappeared toward the strip mall lights. The bus sighed, brakes hissing. Walt leaned toward the fare box and tore a yellow transfer slip from the roll. "Your ex-wife," he said quietly. "Rachel. If she calls, texts, sends somebody, anything with a signature, you keep walking." Owen's stomach tightened at the sound of her name. Rachel Miller had been his ex-wife for 8 months, but she still had a way of reaching into his day and twisting something. Usually it was a late bill she claimed he had forgotten, a polite threat from a lawyer he had never met, or a message written like she was the reasonable one, and he was the problem that kept refusing to disappear. But this was different. This was a bus driver saying her name in the middle of a rainy Tuesday night, like he'd been waiting for Owen aboard. "How do you know Rachel?" Owen asked. Walt did not answer right away. He looked past Owen, through the windshield, toward the depot parking lot across the avenue. The lights there flickered against wet pavement. A silver sedan idled near the employee gate, its windows dark, its engine running. Walt's jaw moved once. "I saw her earlier," he said. "Not alone." Owen followed his gaze, but the sedan pulled away before he could read the plate. For a second, all he saw was red taillights smearing across the rain. "What does that have to do with me signing anything?" Walt folded the yellow transfer slip once, then held it out between 2 fingers. "Because somebody asked me to remember a time that wasn't true." Owen did not take the slip at first. The sentence made no sense, but the fear under it did. "What time?" 6:12. Owen glanced at the bus clock above the windshield. It was 6:41. "I was on this bus at 6:12. "I know," Walt said. "That is why you need this." Owen finally took the slip. It was cheap paper, damp at the edge, printed with Route 47 and a timestamp blurred by rain. He had held dozens of slips like it over the years, crumpled them, tossed them, forgotten them in coat pockets. This one suddenly felt heavier than his phone. "Mr. Jennings," Owen said, forcing his voice steady. "What exactly did Rachel do?" Walt looked toward the back of the empty bus, then lowered his voice. "I'm not saying more on the street. Transit office opens at 8. Ask for Paula Merritt. Bring that slip." And Owen, the way he said his name, made Owen look up. "Do not call Rachel first." Owen stepped down onto the curb. The doors closed behind him, and Route 47 pulled away, leaving him alone under the bus shelter with rain ticking against the plastic roof. For the first time since the divorce, Owen wondered if silence had not protected him, but walked him straight towards something waiting nearby. He stared at the yellow slip in his palm until his phone buzzed. Rachel's name lit the screen, followed by one sentence that made Walt's warning feel less like kindness and more like a lifeline. "You have until 9 to admit you took the envelope." Owen did not answer Rachel. His thumb hovered over the call button, the old reflex still alive in him, the one that wanted to explain himself before she finished accusing him. For 3 years of marriage and 8 months of divorce, Rachel had trained every conversation into a hallway with only one exit: apologize, agree, or pay. This time, Walt Jennings had closed that hallway behind him with one sentence: "Do not call Rachel first." Owen slid the phone into his coat pocket and walked 2 blocks to the 24-hour gas station beside Hawthorne Avenue, where the fluorescent lights made everyone look guilty and exhausted. He bought a black coffee he did not want, sat in the corner booth, and placed the yellow transfer slip flat on the table like it was something fragile. Route 47, 610. The ink had bled slightly at the edge, but the numbers were still readable. At 6:48, Rachel texted again. You are making this worse. At 6:51, a photograph came through. Owen stopped breathing for half a second. It showed a man in a navy jacket standing near the transit depot doors, head lowered, one hand reaching for a large white envelope. Beside him stood Rachel in her cream raincoat, the one she wore whenever she wanted to look calm in front of other people. The caption under the photo read, "Do not insult me by pretending this is not you." Owen zoomed in. The man had his build, his jacket color, even the same canvas work bag slung over the left shoulder. But the shoes were wrong. Owen wore steel-toe boots with worn brown laces. The man in the photo wore polished black dress shoes. A little thing, too little maybe, but it was the first crack in the wall Rachel was building around him. His phone rang before he could think further. Unknown number. He almost let it go, then remembered Rachel's words about lawyers and opened the call. "Mr. Miller, this is Vivian Stone. Walt Jennings gave me your number last month when you asked about post-divorce paperwork, but we never met. Did Rachel contact you tonight?" Owen looked around the gas station as if Rachel might have planted someone between the lottery machine and the hot dog rollers. "She says I took an envelope." Vivian's voice sharpened. "Did you?" "No." "Did you sign anything electronically today?" "No." "Did you give anyone permission to use your name, your image, your identification, or your old mailing address?" Owen opened his mouth, then closed it. A memory moved through him, not soft, not nostalgic, but useful. 6 weeks after the divorce, Rachel had emailed saying the insurance company needed a copy of his driver's license to remove him from a joint auto policy. He had sent it because he was tired, because the divorce decree was final, because he wanted every loose thread cut. "I sent Rachel my license scan in September," he said. The silence on Vivian's end lasted long enough to feel like bad news. "Forward me that email." "Why?" "Because the number she is using against you is not a bill. It is a conduct penalty. If she proves you accepted notice and denied it, she can argue bad faith under the settlement addendum. That is how a 2-page envelope becomes $200,000. Owen looked at the photo again. Rachel's hand was not holding the envelope toward the man. She was holding it toward the camera, making sure the label faced forward. Settlement Conduct Addendum. She staged the picture. Owen said, and hearing himself say it changed something inside him. Fear did not leave. It became narrower, colder, easier to carry. Vivian said, "Maybe, but staged pictures still hurt people who panic. Stay where you are. Send me every message. Do not respond to Rachel." Another text arrived while Vivian was still talking. This one was from Rachel, but it was not a threat. It was a screenshot of a signature box already filled with his name. Under was a line that made Owen stand so fast his coffee spilled across the table. Confirmed by temporary fare card holder, Owen Miller. Vivian did not let Owen clean the spilled coffee first. "Take a picture of the screenshot," she said, "then take a picture of the transfer slip beside it. Same table, same time if your phone shows it. We need to prove what you possess before Rachel can rewrite what you knew." Owen obeyed, hands steadier than he expected. The yellow slip looked ridiculous next to Rachel's polished document, like a grocery coupon challenging a law office. But the numbers on it mattered. 610, Route 47. A public record printed before Rachel sent the threat. He wiped the coffee with napkins, then opened his email and searched Rachel license insurance September. The message appeared immediately, dated September 3rd. Subject line, final auto removal. Rachel had written only 2 sentences. "Need your license scan for the policy release. Send tonight so they do not keep billing both of us." He remembered standing in his kitchen that night, exhausted after a 12-hour warehouse shift, photographing his license under a lamp. He had thought cooperation would buy peace. Now it looked like he had handed her the key to a locked door with his name on it. He forwarded the email to Vivian. 30 seconds later, she called back. "There is an attachment trail," she said. "Your license scan was downloaded 3 times after you sent it." Owen pressed the phone harder to his ear. "Downloaded by Rachel? Once by Rachel. Twice through a shared document link. I cannot identify the second user yet, but the access label is not personal. It says Meridian Settlement Services." Owen had never heard the name. "Is that a law firm?" "No. It looks like a private settlement preparation company. They write financial narratives for divorce disputes, debt claims, reimbursement letters, things that sound official enough to scare people into signing. Owen stared through the gas station window. Outside, cars hissed along the wet street. Ordinary people drove home with groceries and kids and late dinners, while somewhere nearby Rachel was building a paper version of him that accepted envelopes and lied about it. For the first time, Owen felt something sharper than fear. Not anger. Anger would have made him careless. This was insult. Rachel had not only tried to take his money, she had counted on him being too tired to defend his own memory. Vivian continued, "Listen carefully. The screenshot she sent says temporary fare card holder. That means someone created a transit identity for you. Not a permanent account, not your regular pass. A temporary card. Those are usually made at a kiosk or customer service desk." "At the depot," Owen said. "Maybe," Vivian replied. "Did Walt mention a supervisor?" "Paula Merritt. Office opens at 8. Good. Until then, we build the first timeline. Where were you at 5:50, 6:10, and 6:12? Owen closed his eyes. 5:50, he had left the warehouse gate. He remembered because his supervisor, Marcus, had joked that Owen was the only man in Indianapolis who could clock out and still look like he was waiting for permission. At 5:56, Owen tapped onto Route 47 at the eastbound stop by Palapro Logistics. At 6:10, the driver printed the transfer slip because the regular scanner flashed red, and Walt told him the system had been acting up all week. At 6:12, a woman near the front asked whether the bus stopped by Mercy Pharmacy, and Owen had pointed to the route map above the window. Small details returned like lights turning on in a long hallway. Vivian said, "Write that down now. Details fade when people start questioning you." Owen pulled a receipt from his bag and wrote with a dull pencil from the gas station counter. 5:50, 5:56, 6:10, 6:12. Then he stopped. At the bottom of Rachel's screenshot, half hidden by the signature box, was a file name he had missed before. He zoomed in until the words sharpened. Depot_Hinduff_Sports_Draft. Owen read the last two letters again, and his throat went dry. "Vivian," he said. "Who is GK?" Vivian went quiet before answering, and that silence frightened him more than Rachel's text tonight. Vivian did not say the initials out loud. That made Owen understand she already suspected a name and did not want to place it in his head before the record could prove it. "Do not chase that file name," she said. "People like Rachel love when you run toward the shiny piece. We're going to make the boring pieces trap them." Owen sat back down, the receipt with his handwritten timeline drying beside the coffee stain. The gas station clerk glanced over, then looked away with the practiced mercy of a man who had seen strangers fall apart under fluorescent lights. Owen did not fall apart. That was the new part. Rachel had always counted on his first reaction being shame, then explanation, then surrender. Now he felt the shame move out of the way for something quieter. Procedure. He photographed the receipt, the transfer slip, the spilled coffee, the time on the wall clock, and every text Rachel had sent. Vivian had him email everything to a secure folder with the subject line, Route 47 Preservation. Preservation? Owen asked. Because tomorrow somebody may decide a kiosk record was only temporary, or a camera was not worth saving, or a driver's memory was informal. We name it before they erase it. At 7:18, Rachel called 3 times. Owen watched her name brighten and vanish, brighten and vanish. At 7:26, a new message arrived from a number he did not recognize. "Mr. Miller, this is Grant Keller with Meridian Settlement Services. You are advised to cooperate before Ms. Miller escalates your refusal." Owen stared at the name. There was not a guess anymore, not just 2 letters buried inside a file. Grant Keller existed, but Vivian's warning held him still. He sent a screenshot, then placed the phone face down. At 7:54, Vivian pulled into the gas station lot in a gray Subaru, carrying a leather folder and wearing no makeup except the kind of calm that made panic feel unprofessional. She was younger than Owen expected, maybe late 30s, with a voice that sounded like she had never once raised it because she had never needed to. She slid into the booth across from him and picked up the yellow slip by the corner. "This is better than you think," she said. "Why?" "Because it is ugly." Owen blinked. "Ugly?" Real evidence usually is. Crooked ink, cheap paper, bad lighting, ordinary timestamps. Fake evidence tries to look ready for a judge. For the first time that night, Owen almost smiled. Not because anything was funny, but because someone had finally named the difference between Rachel's world and his. Hers came polished. His came printed on bus paper in the rain. At 8:03, they walked in the North Meridian Transit office, a square brick building that smelled like wet coats, floor cleaner, and burned coffee. Paula Merritt met them behind a glass partition, silver glasses hanging from a chain around her neck. Walt had already called her. That alone made Owen's chest loosen. One person had seen something and had not ignored it. Paula took the transfer slip, entered the route number, and pulled up a screen filled with lines of timestamps. She did not rush. She moved like a woman who believed records were not paperwork, but memory with a spine. Route 47, she said. Eastbound. Operator Jennings. Passenger assistance note at 6:12. Owen leaned forward. Passenger assistance? Paula clicked once. Driver logged as standing passenger near front aisle, giving route directions during scanner delay. Description matches male passenger in navy work jacket. Vivian looked at Owen. That is you. It was the first real breath he had taken all night. Then Paula's expression changed. Not much, but enough. She opened another tab. There is a temporary fare card linked to your name, created at the depot at 6:11. Owen's breath caught again. Paula scrolled lower. But it was not created at the public kiosk. She turned the monitor slightly. It was created from the employee service terminal, with a supervisor override code that nobody here recognizes. Then Paula whispered, that means someone came in with access they should never have had here at all. Paula Merritt stared at the screen as if the terminal itself had insulted her. Owen had expected another clean line of data, another timestamp Vivian could place beside the yellow transfer slip, but Paula's face said the record had opened a door none of them knew was there. She reached for a notepad, wrote the override code by hand, then turned the monitor away from the lobby glass. I need to be careful with this, she said. An employee service terminal is not something a visitor can just touch. You need a badge, a login, or somebody standing beside you who decides rules are flexible. Vivian leaned closer, not touching the counter. Can you tell whether the terminal created the card before or after the depot photo? Paula clicked through the log. Before. 6:11 and 14 seconds. The photo Rachel sent you appears to be 6:13 based on the security clock in the corner. Owen looked at the yellow slip again. 6:10. Then Paula's log. 6:11. Then Rachel's photo. 6:13. His life had been split into minutes, and for once, the minutes were standing up for him. Paula opened a second system, older, slower, with a gray screen and square buttons. Every override attaches to a reason code. Lost card, disabled scanner, emergency transfer, fare dispute, visitor assistance. She stopped. This one says legal verification. Vivian's eyes narrowed. Transit does not verify divorce documents. No, Paula said. We do not. Owen felt the room tilt. Rachel had not merely lied outside a bus station. Someone had made the lie look administrative. Paula printed a report, then hesitated before handing it over. Vivian slid a business card through the slot. Mark it as preserved. We are not asking you to give us anything improper. We are asking you to make sure nothing disappears before a lawful request lands on your desk. Paula nodded once. Walt already asked me to lock the driver log. That sentence landed differently than any paper. Walt had not just warned him. Walt had acted before Owen even understood there was a fight. A stranger had protected a record when Owen had still been standing in the rain, trying to decide whether to answer his ex-wife. Paula disappeared into a back office and returned carrying a thin folder labeled Incident Review. There was one more thing, she said. Walt filed this at 6:28 before anyone contacted you. Inside was a handwritten statement in block letters. Male visitor in gray suit asked whether I remember passenger Owen Miller exiting at depot. Visitor offered exact time, 6:12 p.m. I did not confirm. Passenger remained on coach. Owen read the sentence twice. Passenger remained on coach. It was the simplest line in the world, but it felt like a locked window opening. Vivian asked, Did Walt identify the visitor? Paula shook her head. No name, but he noted something odd. She tapped the bottom of the page. Visitor had a temporary contractor badge. Not transit. Blue border. White letters. Meridian. The word entered the room like a match being struck. Owen remembered Grant Keller's message at 7:26, advising him to cooperate. He had imagined Grant behind a desk somewhere, not inside a transit office before Rachel's photograph existed. Paula looked uncomfortable now. Meridian Settlement Services leased a training room here twice last month for employee financial wellness seminars. They were not supposed to retain access. Vivian's calm finally thinned. Did Meridian receive temporary terminal credentials for those seminars? Paula typed again, jaw tight. A guest access packet was issued to their coordinator. Owen already knew the answer before she turned the screen. He knew it from Rachel's timing, from the polished shoes in the photo, from the file name hiding under the signature box. But knowing did not make it less cold when Paula read the name aloud. Grant Keller. Owen folded the yellow transfer slip carefully and put it into his wallet, not because the room felt safe now, but because it had suddenly become clear how far Rachel's trap had reached. Then Paula printed one final page, looked at it, and said, "There is a second temporary card under your name." Paula's last sentence removed every sound from the transit office except the printer's tired clicking. A second temporary card under his name meant Rachel's plan had not ended with one photograph. It had layers. Vivian asked for the time before Owen could. Paula read from the screen, slower now. 7:59 this morning. Owen frowned. That is impossible. I was with you at the gas station before 8. Exactly, Vivian said, which means they were still building the paper trail after they knew you had not answered. Paula turned the report toward them without sliding it across. The second card had been created from a different terminal, not the depot service desk, but a satellite kiosk at the Harrow Street Community Annex, 3 miles west. The reason code was worse than the first one. Document pickup confirmation. Owen felt his pulse crawl up his throat. Pickup for what? Paula clicked once, then her face tightened. A courier hold. Vivian's pen stopped moving. Transit does courier holds? Only for lost property or interagency envelopes. It is not common. Paula printed the activity summary and placed it behind her own counterglass, where Owen could see but not touch. The note says package released to Owen Miller at 8:02. Owen looked at the clock on the wall. It was 8:19. Somewhere, minutes ago, someone using his name had picked up a second envelope. Rachel had not been waiting for 9 o'clock. She had been moving while he was learning how the first lie worked. Vivian asked Paula to preserve the Harrow Street record, then pulled Owen aside near a vending machine humming under a faded route map. "This is the emotional trap," she said quietly. "She wants you to chase the newest piece, call her, threaten Grant, sound unstable, and give them a recording." Owen stared at the yellow transfer slip inside his open wallet. Its paper corner pressed against an old grocery card and a photograph of his sister's kids from last summer. It looked almost innocent there. "So I do nothing?" "No. You do less than they expect and more than they prepared for." Vivian called the Harrow Street Annex from her phone, identified herself, and asked for the supervisor on duty. Owen listened to half sentences. Preserve, false identity concern, no accusations, written request to follow. Her voice stayed even until the supervisor said something that made her look at Owen. "Was the person alone?" she asked. A pause. "Please repeat the description." Owen already knew Rachel would be involved, but the words still landed heavily when Vivian ended the call. A woman matching Rachel's description was there at 8:01. Cream raincoat. She did not sign. She stood near the door. The person who signed was male. "Grant," Owen said. Vivian did not confirm. "Maybe. But here is the new part. The supervisor remembers the man because he did not present your license. He presented a photocopy inside a clear plastic sleeve. The same scan from September, most likely. They never saw an actual identification card." Owen closed his eyes for 1 second, not from defeat, but from the ugliness of it. Rachel had used the version of him he had sent in trust, flattened into paper, carried by another man. When he opened his eyes, Walt Jennings was standing at the far end of the lobby, raincoat dripping onto the tile. He had finished his route early enough to come back in person. He walked over, nodded once to Vivian, then looked at Owen. "I remembered one more thing," Walt said. The man in the gray suit kept touching his left ear, like he was listening to somebody. Paula straightened. "An earpiece?" Walt nodded. "Small one. Clear wire." Vivian's gaze shifted toward the window, toward the parking lot beyond the glass. A silver sedan sat across the street, engine running, windows dark, the same shape Owen had seen from the bus doors. Walt lowered his voice. "That car has been outside since before you came in." Then Owen's phone buzzed with a video from Rachel, and the preview showed him standing inside the transit office with Vivian beside him near Paula's counter today. Owen did not press play immediately. He looked at the frozen preview on his screen and felt distance open between his fear and his hands. The old Owen would have stepped outside, searched the parking lot, demanded to know why Rachel was filming him. That was exactly what she wanted. Vivian saw it before he moved. "Do not give her the scene," she said. Walt Jennings stood beside the route map, rainwater dripping from his coat hem, watching the silver sedan across the street without staring long enough to warn whoever sat inside. Paula reached toward the lobby blinds, but Vivian raised one hand. "Leave them open. If they think we do not know, they may keep making mistakes." Owen took a slow breath and played the video. It was 12 seconds long. The camera angle came from outside the transit office, across Hawthorne Avenue, through the front glass. Owen was visible near Paula's counter with Vivian beside him. Rachel's voice was not on it, but a caption had been added in white letters. "He is already coaching witnesses. See how far he will go to deny the handoff." Owen felt heat rise in his neck, then stop there. The caption was not for him. It was for somebody else. "She is preparing a narrative," Vivian said. "A reaction video without your reaction." Owen replayed it with the sound on. At first there was only windshield rain and the low vibration of an idling car. Then, at the end, a man whispered, "Send it before he calls her." Walt stepped closer. "That is the gray suit." Paula locked the front door. Not because anyone was in danger, but because the office had shifted from public lobby to preserve scene. Vivian asked Owen to forward the video without replying. Then she took her phone, called the Harrow Street Community Annex again, and asked one question. What was inside the courier envelope released at 8:02? The supervisor placed her on hold. During the silence, Owen watched the silver sedan. Its brake lights flashed once, then went dark. His phone buzzed again. This time it was Grant Keller. "Mr. Miller, your continued attempts to influence transit personnel will be documented as intimidation. You have 27 minutes to execute the admission statement." Admission statement, not settlement. Owen read the words twice. Vivian held out her hand for the phone, and when she saw the message, her expression changed in a way Owen had not seen yet. Not alarm. Confirmation. "There it is," she said. The annex supervisor returned to the call. Vivian put the phone on speaker. The woman's voice came thin and official through the room. The package label said post-handoff admission and cure statement. It was released to a male claiming to be Owen Miller with a photocopied identification sleeve. Owen leaned against the counter. Rachel had not needed him to sign the original envelope. She had needed a second document, one that made it look like he had already been caught and was now admitting he mishandled notice. "What does cure mean?" he asked. Vivian answered quietly. "It means they are offering you a way to fix a violation they invented, usually by accepting payment terms. $200,000. Yes." Paula printed the release summary. Walt suddenly pointed at Owen's screen. "Play the video again." Slowly, Owen did. Walt leaned in at the last second, where the whisper came through. "Look at the windshield reflection," he said. Owen paused it. In the dark glass behind the camera, blurred by rain, was the shape of Rachel's cream raincoat in the passenger seat. But beside her, reflected from the dashboard glow, was part of a folder on the driver's lap. Only 3 words were readable on the tab. Owen Miller Compliance. Vivian took the phone from Owen and froze the frame. "They are not just accusing you," she said. "They have a file ready for a mediator who has not heard from us yet." Owen looked from a yellow transfer slip in his wallet to the sedan outside. Then Rachel's next message arrived, and it contained only an address and a time. Mediation. 9 o'clock. Bring the slip. Vivian did not rush toward mediation. That was the first thing that kept Owen from making the worst decision of his life. Rachel had sent an address and a time like she owned the next 40 minutes, but Vivian treated the message like evidence, not instructions. She photographed it, forwarded it, then asked Paula for a private office with a door, a printer, and a phone that recorded call logs. Paula gave them the break room instead, because it had no public windows and the vending machine noise would cover their voices from anyone standing near the lobby glass. Walt stayed outside with a clipboard, pretending to review route sheets while watching the silver sedan through the rain. Owen sat at the break room table, the yellow transfer slip beside his wallet, and realized the strangest part of the morning was not Rachel's cruelty. It was how calm the truth looked when it finally had witnesses. Vivian spread the pieces in a line. Rachel's photograph. The temporary fare card at 6:11. Walt's driver log, placing Owen on Route 47 at 6:12. The employee terminal override. Grant Keller's Meridian credentials. The second card at Harrow Street. The video from the sedan. The reflection showing Rachel and the folder marked Owen Miller compliance. "We do not go to mediation to argue," Vivian said. "We go to make them choose between withdrawing quietly and explaining a fraud timeline in front of a neutral." Owen touched the edge of the transfer slip. "She told me to bring this. Because she thinks it is all you have," Vivian said. Then Paula entered with one more page in her hand. The annex supervisor found the courier release image. Vivian stood. Image. Paula placed it on the table. It was a grainy still from the release counter at 8:02. The man signing as Owen was angled away, but his left hand was visible, resting beside the clipboard. On his ring finger was a thick silver band with a square black stone. Owen had never owned a ring like that. Walt stepped in from the hallway and looked once. "That is the gray suit." Vivian pointed to the signature line. "Can you enlarge it?" Paula did. The signature was not a full signature. It was Owen M., written with a dramatic loop Owen had never used. But the bigger reveal was under the pickup reason. It said authorized by claimant counsel representative. Owen looked up. "Rachel has a lawyer now." Vivian's eyes narrowed. "Not exactly. Claimant counsel representative is what a consultant uses when he wants clerks to think he has legal authority without saying he is an attorney." The room went still. Grant Keller had not only used Owen's identification. He had leaned on fake authority to make public workers release records. Vivian opened her laptop and searched Meridian's corporate registration. She did not need long. "Grant Keller is not licensed to practice law in Indiana," she said. And Meridian's business filing was suspended last spring. Owen felt the floor settle under him in a new way. Rachel's perfect machine had bolts missing. Paula made a quiet sound and turned her monitor toward Vivian. "You need to see the badge scan." The screen showed the guest badge Grant used at the employee terminal. Under organization, it did not say Meridian Settlement Services. It said Miller Compliance Review. Owen stared. His last name. A fake company built from his name. Vivian printed the badge record and placed it at the end of the evidence line. "Now we go," she said. The mediation office was 5 blocks away, above a title company with brass elevators and beige walls. Rachel was already there, raincoat folded over her chair, eyes dry, face composed. Grant sat beside her with a silver ring on his left hand. He smiled at Owen like the morning belonged to him. On the table in front of Rachel was a sealed folder labeled admission statement. The mediator entered, glanced at the clock, and said, "Let us begin with what Mr. Miller brought." Rachel looked at the yellow slip in Owen's hand and smiled. "Perfect," she said. "That is the proof he was at the depot." The mediator looked from Rachel's smile to the yellow transfer slip. "Proof of what?" Rachel opened the folder as if she had rehearsed paper sliding against paper. "Proof that Owen was at the depot during the handoff window. He keeps pretending the slip saves him, but places him on the transit system when he accepted the envelope and later refused to cooperate." Grant Keller nodded. "Mr. Miller has attempted to influence transit employees since then. We have video." Owen felt the old pressure in his chest, the one Rachel created by speaking first and sounding wounded. Vivian placed one palm flat on the table before he could answer. Let us go in order. She took the yellow slip from Owen and laid it down where everyone could see the ink. Route 47. Printed at 6:10 because the onboard scanner delayed. Driver Walt Jennings logged Mr. Miller as a standing passenger at 6:12. Rachel's smile thinned. A driver can be mistaken. Vivian set down the driver log. That is why we also have the operator incident note filed at 6:28 before Rachel contacted Owen. It says a man in a gray suit asked the driver to remember Owen exiting at 6:12, and the driver refused because Owen remained on the coach. Pike adjusted his glasses. Grant reached for his pen, then stopped. Vivian added the employee terminal record. At 6:11, a temporary fare card was created under Owen's name using a supervisor override code. Not for public kiosk. From an employee service terminal connected to a guest access packet issued to Meridian. Grant cleared his throat. That access was for a training event. Last month, Vivian said. Not last night. Rachel looked at Grant for the first time. It was quick, but Owen saw it. The kind of glance people share when the lie is alive, but limping. Vivian placed the courier release image beside the slip. At 8:02 this morning, a second temporary card under Owen's name was used to release a post-handoff admission and cure statement. The signer presented only a photocopy of Owen's license. This ring is visible on the signer's left hand. She turned the image toward Grant's hand. The silver band with the black stone rested beside his legal pad. The mediator looked at it, then at Grant. Nobody spoke for 4 seconds. 4 seconds was enough to change the room. Rachel's voice came smaller. I was told that was standard. Vivian did not chase the confession. She opened the final printout. The badge used for the employee terminal did not say Meridian Settlement Services. It said Miller Compliance Review. Meridian's business filing is suspended. Mr. Keller is not an attorney licensed in Indiana. And the video Rachel sent Owen from outside the transit office contains a windshield reflection showing both Rachel and a folder labeled Owen Miller Compliance before this mediation began. Grant stood halfway. This is a misunderstanding. Pike closed the folder in front of him. Sit down, Mr. Keller. Grant sat. The sentence sounded soft, but it ended the performance. Vivian slid the yellow transfer slip back to Owen. The $200,000 demand is withdrawn from today's discussion. Preservation notices are going to transit, the annex, and Meridian's registered address. Any further use of Owen Miller's name, identification, or claimed admission will be treated as disputed and unauthorized. Rachel stared at Owen, not angry exactly, but confused by the absence of the man she expected. He was not pleading. He was not explaining. He was holding a damp yellow slip and breathing normally. Owen, she whispered, I only needed security. He folded the slip once along Walt's crease. No, he said, you needed a witness to a lie. Outside, the rain had stopped. Owen did not feel victorious in the way movies promised. He felt tired, clear, and strangely light. By noon, Vivian had the claim frozen. By Friday, Paula confirmed the records were preserved. Walt went back to driving Route 47. Owen kept the transfer slip in his wallet, behind his license, where paper should not matter, but did. Because one honest timestamp had given him back his name.